Curse of the Pond. This is the story that happened when I was a little kid. There was an unfortunate ending. For more precisely, this is a strategic story. When I was 7 or 8 years old, my two best friends and I hung out together happily every day. We usually played at a small pond nearby. The pond had been a hollow before. As time passed, a large amount of rainwater had formed it, so it was not really a large pond. Even though it was not a large pond or a deep water level, kids like us didn't allow to go there since that was dangerous to kids. The pond was a familiar place to us and built our enjoyable childhood memories, full of joy and tons of games there, like catching frogs or fishing. We excitedly looked at the jumping frogs between the rocks and the water's surface from the pond's bank, or we used small stones and threw to the water to see whose rock went the furthest. Moreover, we liked watching a school of fishes swimming in the water. We had been curious how those fishes could live under the water in that pond. To be frank, that was just a large puddle. Back then, my best friends were Michael and Lucas. We were very close to each other, opened up everything, and went together everywhere. That particular day, we went to the pond. Then suddenly, it rained. The more we waited, the heavier the rain was. We rushed back to our houses. Then it rained the whole of that night heavily. Fortunately, it stopped rain the following day. The sun rose and brought warm weather. As usual, Michael, Lucas, and I went to school together. We talked about the heavy rain last night. Lucas spoke up. It rained cats and dogs last night. Then Michael asked us an odd question. Have you guys ever seen yourself before? Of course, I see myself every day in the mirror. Lucas teased glibly at Michael's question. Michael was serious about that. He frowned and emphasized, "No. I don't mean your reflection in the mirror. I meant in real life." Lucas and I objected to him. "No way. How could? That would definitely not possible if that is not in front of a mirror." Then Michael told us what happened in the morning. "I saw myself this morning." He was so determined. That morning, he woke up and went out. Once, he went to the bathroom. He saw a boy stepped out of the bathroom. Michael was dazzled from what he could see. The boy was him, from the face, the posture, and the clothes. He got paralyzed when the boy passed him by. Michael looked at his back until the boy went to his house. But he needed to pee badly, so he was unable to follow the boy instantly. He went to the bathroom first. Once he back to his house, Michael checked every single room in his house but could not see another him anymore. While having breakfast, Michael told what he had seen to his parents. "Mom, Dad, I just went to the bathroom and saw another boy who looked exactly like me. He walked from the bathroom and stepped to our house." But his parents thought he was playing dumb and trash talking. His mom ignored him. "Don't keep talking trash. Let's eat. Then go to school, or else you're gonna be late." Before Michael leaving, his mom gave him a warning. "Don't go to the pond after classes. You gotta go straight home, hear me? It rained the whole night yesterday, so it must be dangerous out there." "I know, Mom." After Michael finished, I got a goosebump. I recalled some of my grandma's stories. "Does that your soul, the one you saw?" "Oops, never mind. That doesn't make any sense." Lucas teased Michael. "So, do you think you could see your soul because you're gonna die very soon?" He kept the joke until I got annoyed and reminded him that he shouldn't talk about that unfortunate stuff like that, so Lucas had stopped then. Michael was my classmate. What he had told me kept stuck in my head, so I kept a close eye on him. There was nothing special about him that day. He looked sleepy, and a bit lacked energy. Time flew. The bell sounds of finishing school had rung. Michael, Lucas, and I walked together while discussing where we should go after school. At that moment, we walked by a woman carrying a toddler and walking opposite us. Once we came closer, the little boy had cried aloud. His face was frightened as if he had looked at something scary. The toddler gazed his eyes at Michael. After walking by the woman for a while, we discussed why the little boy had cried. I have no ideas why the toddler cried like that when seeing Michael. Me too. That was because Michael is so ugly, so the toddler got scared of. Haha. Then we teased Michael with our childish jokes. When walking through the village, we saw another weird event. A stray dog was looking for food at the rubbish heap on the street. Once we came by, the dog barked and looked at us angrily. The dog's hair was bristling. We all thought that the nature of the stray dog, it probably was afraid of us, might hit it. The bark was too loud, it stared at us, we didn't want to piss it off, we were scared of getting a bite, so we decided to walk closer to the wall, step by step. After a few meters of walking close to the wall, the three of us tried the best to run straight as far as we could, even though the dog kept barking crazily from behind. What the hell with that dog? Why is it barking at us? I asked. Who knows, what the hell is it happening today? What I have done so that even a stray dog is bullying me? Michael replied. I guess the dog targeted Lucas and me, but that wasn't right. He barked during seeing Michael, and at that moment, all of us weren't able to understand why. Once we stopped running, we had escaped from the angry dog chasing. At that moment, we realized that we had put our steps on the way to the familiar pond area. We had an idea to go to the pond. Since that was our favorite spot, the three of us happily opened a race to the pond. Wow! Look at this! The pond now is full of water. After a rainy night, the small pond became a bigger one. The water level had risen. There were a bunch of rotten branches had been floated on the water's surface. Right after seeing there was nothing else to play, I told Michael and Lucas, nothing we could play here, let's go to another place. Let's kayaking. Michael pointed to the water and suggested having a kayak trip. But we have nothing to kayak? Haven't we? I curiously asked. Michael pointed to the pond and showed me his boat. That was a giant floating wooden panel. There were some of the frogs, sitting and jumping around. Michael was very naughty. He found a few long sticks from the bank and jumped right to the panel. Lucas was excited and jumped to the panel. I saw the pond became more extensive, so I got a bit scared. I didn't have the gut to jump to the panel. Michael used the sticks he had found on the bank as a paddle to control the panel. While paddling, he tried to push me in. Hurry up. Let's get in the boat, we're gonna sail. I was so convinced and tended to jump in the panel, but suddenly, the panel capsized and sank. Both Michael and Lucas fell to the water. I was scared to death, shouted aloud, Michael. Lucas. After a while, I saw Lucas got out of the water, he grabbed another wood. I tried to pull Lucas to the bank. But Michael was nowhere to be found then. Lucas and I stood at the bank, called Michael aloud. But we didn't see him at all. We were frightened and rushed back to the village to call for help. A while after, lots of people and boats had been brought to the pond to look for Michael. They had found for hours, but he was still nowhere to be found. Probably he had died, but where could his body was? The paddle which Michael and Lucas used had been found as well and brought to the bank. That turned out a coffin's cover. Michael's father had used a few pumps to pump out the water in the pond and find Michael. People had installed 4 pumps and run them the whole night. The following day, once the water in the pond had been pumped all out, Michael's body wasn't there. People could see clearly there was only a coffin there, at the bottom of the pond. No one knew where the coffin came from. People were curious about the coffin as well. Why is there a huge coffin here? Does it was brought here by the heavy rain last night? People came down and closer to the coffin. They wanted to bristle the coffin to check if Michael was under the coffin. The coffin was too heavy. People took a while of hard work. The moment the coffin had been turned around, people all froze. That was weird and very scary. Michael's body was really there, under the coffin. He was holding tightly by the corpse in the coffin, but no one could explain why he was under there and being held by the corpse. People in the village then turned the pond to be a pool of rubbish, year after year, when I grew up and got a chance to hear about spiritual stories. I heard about people who die soon would see their own soul, which probably why Michael saw his own before going to school. If I hear about that earlier, we might never lose him. That particular day, I would not let him go to the pond.